What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Faith Unpacked pod. This is episode 1, the pilot. So just to give you a little intro to what this podcast is going to be is whenever we're finishing sermon series or whenever we're finishing youth series or whenever we want to kind of unpack what is happening at our church or unpack what's been going on with the sermon, me and my esteemed guest, Pastor Jason Lowe, also known as my dad, we'll be sitting down here and we will be discussing all of those things. So we're really excited to do that, and we're excited for the pod. So, Pastor Jason, and Dad. I don't know what to call you. How are you? How are you feeling?
Man, I'm good. And like you said, we wanted this to be really a podcast focused for the people of the church. Not like trying to reach out beyond that, but just unpacking the sermon series a little bit. So excited to do that.
We're firm believers that not everybody needs a podcast. And so we don't want to join in on that, like just filling up the podcast space with, trying to just grow our podcast. We want to really just be for the people that come to Faith Community Church and just hear the sermons and kind of can get more from that. And so that's with the Faith Unpacked name is kind of a little bit of a double meaning of, faith, Faith Community Church, but then also our faith and how we will unpack that. And so we'll talk about the sermon series. We'll talk about what's going on at the church. We'll have some guests in here at some point. We can maybe get Pastor Slam in here talking about some worship things, or just anybody else talking about maybe what's going on at Oak Hill or whatever it may be. But
now, I was told though that we weren't only going to talk about that stuff.
That is true.
Because
the world is happening around us as well, and we,
and by the world we mean like
and
sports.
Like, I mean, the NBA, we're big NBA
Yes.
fans. We're big hockey, NHL fans. World Cup's about to happen. We're sports people. We're video game people, but we'll just talk about kind of whatever's going on in our lives as well, and you can kind of get to know us too a little bit just as we talk is like a cool. So, well, I guess NBA. What's going on right now? Knicks and Spurs.
Knicks and Spurs. Go Spurs.
Go Spurs. Yeah.
Go Spurs.
I'm like torn in a way that I honestly don't care who wins. Like, I just like both of them. So I just want it to be a good series. But what's going on in the NHL too?
Well, the Avs are out, so that kind of
Rest in peace.
Yes. I mean, they got swept too, so it hurt a little bit.
They did.
But we're getting.
Well, are they in the finals now?
No, they lost in the Western Conference Finals, and now this is getting ready to be Stanley Cup Finals. And
is it the Knights?
Hurricanes and the Knights. Yeah.
Yeah, he's more of a hockey guy than I am, but it's so.
But we don't care about either of those teams, so we can move on.
Yeah. So, and then the World Cup's happening. I know there's. I don't fully.
USA going to be strong at all, or just get
really
killed in group stage?
I know that's probably going to happen, but I don't fully know about that. Yeah. Just based off your knowledge right now, which is probably not very much.
Hey, thanks for tuning in.
Who do you think who you think's gonna take it? Just like early prediction.
Take the World Cup?
Yeah, take the World Cup.
Oh man, just one of those soccer nations. I mean, Brazil always feels like Argentina.
Yeah, I don't know. I doubt Argentina. I don't know.
Just because Messi's old?
Well, I don't think
because you're prejudiced against old people.
No. I just don't think they have it in them to. I just feel like a lot of their team is getting older, and I feel like once you win it once, it's like not. I don't know if you still. I mean, maybe you do, but I don't know if you still have that motivation.
Okay, so continent. You just pick a continent. I take South America as a continent.
Okay.
Well, what continent?
Well, I'll take Europe then.
Europe
I feel like that's the obvious next one, but I think that. I think
so.
Europe's having a good year this year.
Like African continent's just going to be just neither of us taking African continent.
Well, I don't know. I mean. We don't know much about soccer. So
you're the one that brought up the World Cup.
I did. But yeah, so we're joined in the studio by Big Danny Marks, the man with many nicknames, who's going to be he's going to be in here if we need anything from him, and then our editor we also need a nickname for him.
His name's Ben too, so
Ben,
he needs a nickname.
and obviously,
really
I take precedence over him.
Yeah.
I take authority. I take importance. I'm just kidding. I was just trying to get him to look.
So he's been one,
but
yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we'll go ahead and hop in, and maybe if there's a train that kind of gets off the rail, we can just see where that goes.
Yeah, man.
But
yeah.
We'll start with we just finished the May series, You're Not Behind. So as you were preparing to, as you came up with the idea for this series and before you'd fully fleshed it out and kind of known what you were going to talk about the 4 weeks, what were your thoughts just going into it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the core of it was new seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I felt like the Lord is bringing our church into a new season. I feel like a lot of people that I was talking to are going into new seasons. It's the time of year of new seasons, I mean, it's graduation time, and so that's a lot of new seasons, and so that was really the idea. And then it was, as we think about new seasons, like what are the challenges of that? And so the enemy comes in a lot. I think the enemy is not just always with us, like not always behind every bush, all that kind of stuff. I think he comes at strategic times, and so one of those strategic times was new seasons, and so then the idea of what would he do, what would he say, and then kind of landing on this idea that you're behind, you're not good enough, you're not going to make it. And honestly, over these last few weeks, I mean, I feel like that's resonated with a lot of people. I think that as they talked about and thought about new seasons and the ideas that would maybe hold them back or discourage them, I think those were some of those ideas.
Yeah, and I think that for me is I just graduated college, and so that just kind of comes with a thrust into a new season, and so I think that I kind of felt that too, and so as you were talking about this, it kind of identified with me too, and you started out the series with a kind of you just came up immediately, and you were kind of just saying about how excited you are about those things, and then you just said all that, and you said to me a couple weeks ago, isn't it funny how a lot of times you will be speaking about or doing whatever happens to be in your life, happening in your life at that time. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about new seasons, and I mean, this is a new season. You're in new seasons too right now. So, I mean, do you feel like?
Well, and I mean, I said that to you because I mean, you are in the new season. He's stepping into the youth role here at the church in a new way, and I wanted to say that to you, as you're preparing to talk and doing things like that in series and thinking about that, hey, man, watch for it in your own life, because I mean, I think, the Lord prepares us. I think that as we, he brings us stuff, whether it's in personally, in Bible study, or whether it's in our role of teaching and that kind of thing. It's as we get into it, the Lord is preparing us for it to happen and to come. And, but you were graduating, of course, Noah and Reagan. Noah's my oldest, and his wife Reagan, and they're getting ready to have their first child, which
is going to be a grandpa.
Yeah, man, Papa J, baby, and and so that's going to be a new season, man. I mean, and it's all the questions, right? It's am I ready to be a grandpa? Am I as good as other grandpas? Am I, I mean, all the things. This kid's stuck with me. I am this kid's grandpa, and it doesn't even get a choice. And
I feel like it's a weird thing because I don't know. And I know that you graduated, and you graduated with a master, a doctorate, but I feel like it's not often that people are becoming grandpas in the same year that they graduate. I just feel like it's two different kind of stages of life, and you're having all these kind of together. And so
yeah, and I mean, I getting to graduate with you too. You graduated too, so that was cool. But yeah, it's a lot of new seasons. So
yeah, and I think it's just funny how that kind of works. And once you said that, I started to kind of realize how much that happened. But I think the first week of this series was super important to just the foundation of the series, because you talked about your three your 3 points, and I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
talk about those but
No, I mean, I think those are important. I mean, obviously, if you were here for the series or listened to the series, you got them right, because I mean, we said them every week. But I mean, we talked about comparison. Just enter into that new season. It's like look around, see everybody. We talked about idealizing the past. It's like, man, I'm in this season, but wow, wasn't the last season great? And you forget all the bad parts about it, but you just kind of idealize that. And then the unrealistic expectations of, I'm expecting this new season to be perfect. I'm going to be perfect in this new season. And then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And, again, just like studying and looking and thinking and trying to boil down, what are the main struggles that people have in the new season I think that those were sort of, and, I think that's what the Bible, points to as well, is like, those are going to be the 3 struggles that we have the most in a new season. So,
yeah.
And I mean, did you see any of those? Like, as I was saying those, did you see any of those in your life? Like, I mean, do you struggle with comparison or the past or expectations?
I think that the most was the creating attainable expectations. Like, and I'm more of a general expectations guy. Like, I just say I'm going to do this, and I don't really put a goal on it, or I don't put and so I've kind of tried to have more like I'm going to have this amount, or I'm going to do this by this time, or like this is my goal for this. Like, for instance, reading a book, it's like, I'm going to have this chapter done in a week, and then you kind of grow to, I'm going to have 2 chapters done in the next week. And so
I mean, you feel good about that? You feel good about those things? Is that what you're saying?
I'm working on it. But you said in this sermon, and I thought this was just really funny, especially because this is the thing that I kind of saw in myself. But you said, and I quote, I've seen unrealistic expectations eat your guys' lunch, and I want my lunch. And so I realized that I wanted to have more attainable expectations to, because, I didn't want unrealistic expectations to eat my lunch, because I want it.
Well, I mean, and I'm doing like a lot of premarital counseling, again, especially this time of year. You talk about new beginnings, like this is the time, this is wedding season, right?
Yeah.
And so, I sit down with these couples, man, and I mean, they have unrealistic expectations for what marriage is going to hold and be like. And it's going to, it's going to be perfect, and it's going to be all these things. And it's just like, how do you say to them, like, be careful, like, don't expect so much that like you're just bound to be disappointed, right? Like, and start out of the gate just disappointed in your marriage that we're hoping will last a lifetime. So, I mean, that was specifically probably what was in my mind when I made that statement. Like, I've seen expectations eat your lunch, was thinking about just all these newlyweds who are, 6 months in and just like, wow, who did I marry?
Yeah. And then, as I think that's probably how you were thinking, because then you kind of started talking about kids, right? You started talking about having kids, and like you said, that people will say, why aren't my kids following the Lord? Like, as they continue to grow and as they can kind of branch out into their own new seasons, and as they grow. And then you said, well, did you teach them to respect you and those in authority over them? Like, and I thought that was a really good, like, you don't even, I mean, obviously you do, but like, you didn't even say like, did you teach them to respect God? Did you teach them to trust God? You said, did you teach them any authority at all? Or like, did you teach them to respect authority in any aspect of their life? Like, not only just God, just in any aspect. And I thought that was good.
Yeah, well, I mean, the relationship between the spiritual things and the practical things, right, is like, I think something we don't think about enough. And, just thinking like a parent who teaches their child to disrespect a coach, like you get in the car after every little league game and you're criticizing the coach, right? It's like, how does that teach them to respect authority? And then when you say, well, God is the ultimate authority, then all those lessons have to transfer. Right. And so if we're disrespecting people, if we're, if we're teaching them that, if we're disrespectful about, like, let's say our boss, and we're disrespectful about all those things, then it's hard to just flip that switch, right? And say, okay, now let's respect God. And this is what it looks like.
Just the only other thing I have from that sermon, I mean, I thought all those points were just really good and helpful for me. But then you talked about the Joseph Jackson example of like humbling yourself, and
Michael.
Just shout
That's
out
the
Michael
movie,
Jackson,
Michael.
just the movie Michael
And Michael Jackson.
Shout out Michael Jackson. But humbling yourself, like even when you've messed up, and do you want to just expand on that? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was one of those times where you just sort of take that risk, like we just seen the movie, and you're just kind of walking in there, and I'm standing up there on the platform, and I'm just talking. But yeah, I mean, I just thought for me that was just a really powerful scene, because in that moment, and again, I don't think this is any spoiler alerts or whatever, but I mean, in that moment, Michael Jackson's already, an adult, and his dad's talking about whipping him, and his mom says you can't whip him anymore, and his attitude just still doesn't change. Joseph Jackson's attitude doesn't change, but I just occurred to me in that moment that like if his attitude changes, even this late in Michael's life, like their whole relationship could change, and so it was definitely something. Something that I mentioned in that message that, maybe I had some people kind of ask me about later was, we talked about the 4 stages of parenting in that message. And that was a Andy and Sandra Stanley idea from a book called Parenting Getting It Right, with like it in italics.
Shout out Andy Stanley.
Shout out Andy Stanley. Shout out Sandra Stanley, man. I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry.
And so she's awesome too. But we we looked at if you look at that book, I think was a really great idea that I wish your mom and I had when you were little.
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book I did. It's Parenting Getting It Right. And but it talks about these 4 stages of parenting, like the discipline years 0 to 5, where you teach kids obedience and you teach them appropriate consequences. I mean, there's the whole spanking debate, right? And where your mom and I came down on that. That really well. And but you're teaching your kids 0 to 5. Just basic obedience. You just want first-time obedience because you want, if they're running out into the street, you want to be able to say stop and they listen the first time, that kind of thing. There transitions out from 5 years old to 6 years old with the training years. What, you have commentary to
They
give?
spanked me.
They did.
And I was the type of kid that like tried to put multiple layers on, or like have multiple pairs of jeans on.
Before you were disobedient? You were planning your disobedience?
Well, no, like, because they did the thing where they're like, go to your room, and then you have like the 10-minute mourning period for what's about to occur. And so in that mourning period, I would just put on like different pairs of and I would get caught every time. I didn't do it many times because I realized I would get caught because I would get spanked. And I think it was a good thing that I was punished, but they would realize that when they were spanking a pillow, like of 4 pairs of pants, that and I was like, oh, that.
I mean, who knows? I don't know how like the wide people feel about spanking and whatever. So we might get like shut down right out of the gate.
Well, I'm just saying I was spanked and I appreciate it. So
yeah,
I'm
okay. Well, I mean, there was a whole process of the spanking too, right? I mean, we didn't like just chase after you with a belt through the neighbor's yard and just beating you or whatever.
It wasn't a Joseph Jackson.
Yeah, it wasn't a Joseph Jackson situation as far as that goes. But I mean, there was certainly a way to do that.
Yeah.
But then, jumping from 5 to 6 years old, you go into the training years. And, this was something I think that we did okay, like with you guys. Of course, we didn't have this book or this language at the time, but started to explaining why. Why for the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and a lot of times I see parents, and you just, I don't know, you're parenting, you're having all the feelings, but you just don't want to explain to your kids why, like for things, because you feel like it's like belittling or giving them too much power. But I always had the idea that I wanted you to know why. Like, I don't want you to think that we're just making random rules, right? Yeah. I don't think God makes random rules. I think God makes rules for a reason. And so if you understand, hey, rules, if you trust the source of the rule, then you need to trust that there's a good reason behind the rule. Mm-hmm. And so I think from the age of 5 to 12, those training years, that you ought to be teaching your kids those things, right? You want them to gain skills. You want them to gain values during those years. Because honestly, right, when a kid turns 13, they just lose their minds. Like mm-hmm. they immediately sort of, whenever they enter around 13, they start to think you don't know anything, that, all that. It's those middle school years. And those are the coaching years, right? And according to the Stanleys, those are the coaching years. So this is the toughest transitions for parents because you got to take a step back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you got to let your kids fail. And you got to just kind of, the goal is sort of maintain the relationship to keep them coming to you for guidance. like you still have amazing influence in your kids' lives. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think that they're cool, that they know everything, and they want that distance. But you really do. You are the most influential person in their life. So you just want to keep them coming to you for guidance. And then, of course, the last transition is,
well, and I think with that, sorry to interrupt
yeah,
you, but I think like that kind of goes back to the point earlier you made of like teaching them to respect your coaches and teaching them to respect the authority. And so then whenever you enter those like coaching years where you kind of have to take a step back, they still like have learned that they still like they understand authority. They
Right.
understand like you know, as you kind of take that role as a coach of how to interact with the coach, right? Like how to ask for advice, how to ask for help. And so I think that, you know, all of these kind of stages, like even though they're obviously different and your kids are different, they still have like they still work together but are also different. So it's like,
well, and I mean the stepping back part and like letting you fail. I mean, your mom and I, like, I mean, we struggled a lot, you know. I mean, it's like you don't want your kids to fail, and it's like, man, is this too big of a fail? You know, we don't want to like you know tank your confidence or whatever. But at the same time, we don't always want to bail you out and that kind of thing. And you know, that was when I started talking in language like, you know, when you're 18, when you're an adult, like what you just did is going to have really big consequences, you know? So you're 13, 14, 15, and I'm wanting you to start to see, you know, hey, if you hit your brother the way you hit your brother, and if you're 18 or over, you're going to go to jail, right? And it's like, so you start, you know, you just starting to try to.
Oh man, yeah. I just got all the flashbacks, man. they were good. I remember like
we can do nothing without shouting out Noah.
Yeah, I mean, Noah is just I was a little bit of a rage baiter. I will admit that, but Noah just made it so fun. And I mean, even for Dad, you enjoyed it too. I mean,
I didn't.
No, he didn't enjoy it at all for legal reasons.
Legal reasons.
But I remember there was one time where Noah like hit me, and I think he was like 17 or like I was being annoying. I'm not saying I wasn't, but he hit me, and Dad was like, I'm calling the cops. Like, this is what's going to happen. Like, and Noah was like, and then it kind of just, it made Noah, but it was just, it's a funny time that just came back to my memory. But yeah.
Well, I mean, but then you do turn 18, right? And I mean, it's such a great season. I mean, like, you know, all three of you guys have, you know, love the Lord, and you've grown, and you're wise, and you're learning, and you've got all these different experiences. And now it's
we can wrap it up there. Thank you guys.
But I mean, you know, it's just like the friendship now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like one of the things, I don't even know if I really got to say this in that sermon, you know, but I really wanted to say, like, it's worth it. You know, like all the hard decisions, all the sleepless nights, all of the effort that you put in through all of these other years, you know, getting your kid to 18 and getting him to love the Lord and that kind of thing. It's like worth it, you know? And I mean, I had a conversation, you know, with somebody the other day just about, you know, their kid is over 18 now and is not serving the Lord and everything. And I mean, that's a different discussion, but I mean, and that's hard. And, you know, one of the things I feel like these parents did everything right. I mean, there's no guarantees. And, you know, just because if your kid doesn't love the Lord and becomes an adult and doesn't, you know, live that life, doesn't mean you didn't do everything right. Like you can do everything right. And God gave us all freedom, and even your kids. And you know, I wish, you know, that my 3 kids didn't have that freedom. Like I just wanted to lock them in, you know, you're just going to love the Lord. But every single person has freedom. So, I mean, if there's a parent and you're like, man, you're beating yourself up, you can do everything right. And you know, those influences can come and get your kid. I mean, it's one of the things that we work so hard as parents, you know, just trying to get our kids to that line and get them to love the Lord as adults.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you guys did a good job of like, obviously when you're growing up as a pastor's kid, it's a little bit of a different, this line is very hard to walk. The line of like, not like teaching your kids Christianity and teaching your kids like the ways of God, but also not forcing. Like, I mean, obviously I never felt forced to be a Christian. It obviously was a very big part of my life because he was a pastor. And so we're always at church, but I never uh, like I think you guys did a good job of kind of walking that line in the best way you could. And I think that it's kind of a niche situation because of just the, you know, you being a pastor, that's a little bit of a different scenario. So it's like sometimes I had to be at the church when I didn't want to be but you know, it's just like I think you walked that line well of like teaching me about the ways of God and like doing, like telling me why things are important, not just on a physical level, but also on a spiritual level, but also like kind of giving me that freedom and letting me use my freedom to choose. And I think so often, like when I just, as I've kind of grown up, and I just see that as a blessing that you didn't like force me one way or like completely hands off and like you'll figure it out. I think that it was a good line to walk. And um
Well, I mean, that was certainly a lot of, I mean, you want to force, right? And just realizing that forcing is not the best way to do that. But and one of the things, and again, shout out to Andy Stanley. We keep talking about Andy Stanley, but he's been a big influence in my life. He talked about, what I mean, he was a pastor and he had kids, and I mean, I think it's 2 boys and a girl, just like us. So we were like resonated, and with that, and yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's such an inspiration. And but he talked about the things that he would encounter in his work as a pastor. Like he would come home and he would make those his devotions, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, I would talk to you guys like. I wouldn't give you names and you didn't know who I was talking about, but I mean, I see alcohol was such a destructive force in people's life or different things, I mean, we would talk, I mean, about, people that were unfaithful in marriage or people that, stole money and did different things like that. And it was like, obviously no names and nothing like that, but, it was like, and here's the result of that. And trying to let you kind of see that. And a lot of times I think, you got older, you knew who it was. I mean, we all knew who it was. It was kind of public knowledge, man. I mean, it's like this guy robbed a bank or whatever. And
shout out. No.
You could just easy. and you could just see, man, that, wow, it's like that the fruit of a life lived with these types of choices. And so, I just tried to, I always wanted you guys to be able to see it in the real world. Because I felt like, I mean, I don't think that the Bible is true just because the Bible is true. I think the Bible is true in the real world. It's like, you can see those principles in a very real way. And I just always wanted to connect you guys to that.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think as far as sermon 1 goes, I think do you have anything else that you wanted to say? Any thoughts about why you were typing it or why you were...
No, I mean, I was interested to, I was glad to hear your thoughts on that too, because I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm excited about this, man.
Yeah.
Hear you.
He just gets to question me.
Yeah, man. So what did I fail at as a parent,
I mean, it's going to be a long pod. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right. Week 2. I think the best way to do this, he's already made it into it once. Maybe this is just going to turn into a Talking About Noah podcast. But I mean, your me story, and I think that just Noah, he's always been ahead of the curve. Curve, whatever. And it's, and then, his thoughtful questions at the age of 5.
Yeah.
And he's asking about,
what's the purpose of life?
What's the purpose of life? I think that pretty sums up Noah pretty well.
Yeah.
But you could talk about that, or, I mean...
Well, for me, I really was using that as a transition into, it was graduation Sundays, graduation season, they're talking about that transition. And I was really talking, I think that a large part of the purpose of life and part of it that we miss is work. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the Bible says that work is part of the meaning of life. And, I mean, if you wrestle Ecclesiastes to the ground, there it is, it's work, and work and a relationship with the Lord. I talked about Genesis 2:15, where it's before the fall, and God tells Adam, tend the garden. I mean, I think that's work. That's not, I mean, there are thorns and thistles that come in Genesis 3 after the fall, but work was part of it, Mm-hmm. And I don't think that, and I think that was the week that, I said, like, if everybody listened to this sermon, the churches of our area would be full in 2 years. Like, you wouldn't be able, I mean, if everybody went to work,
applied the sermon,
not just to listen.
We don't just want numbers.
Yeah, man. But if they applied the sermon, if you go to work and work as if you're working for the Lord.
Yeah.
And so that was, I feel like that's a really important message that I think a lot of times we miss. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I just didn't even get to cover at all in that message, I mean, part of the podcast thing is that there's so much, and then they only give you 35 minutes on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
before people just start running for the exits, like literally just climbing over each other to get out.
Shout out lunch.
So my 35 minutes, but we didn't talk at all about the Protestant work ethic, which was something that I had prepared like that week because, that it was huge. Our country was founded, 250, years ago.
What's the word? Semi-quin.
Yeah. Big Dan, what's the word?
Semi-quincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial.
That's been Danny's favorite word the last week.
Yes.
He said.
Look that up. Give us like a real definition.
Yeah.
I want to see if you know how to spell this.
Semi-quincentennial.
We're watching him. We're going to see. Oh, semi.
Oh, there. Oh, Google helped him.
Oh, yeah. He didn't even spell it all the way out.
He had a good. So,
oh man, like
Google's
popping off. We got American flags flying and stuff.
Shout out America.
Nice. America.
Definition: the 250th anniversary of an event or the celebration of that milestone.
I just feel like what is it?
What shouldn't it be? Semi. So semi-quin. What is quin?
Quin means 500. I would
so
assume
it's like semi.
half of 500.
So
you're like 250 should have its own word and not have to like borrow from 500.
Doesn't it have its own Roman numeral, or am I tripping?
I mean, doesn't everything have its own Roman numeral?
Well, but isn't that one of the one letters? Is that
250? I don't think 250 is
just 500.
No, I mean, I think I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I know 500 has one, and by I know I mean I'm decently confident. But
we were talking about the Protestant work ethic 250 years ago, and there was the Puritans came and they had these two amazing complementary ideas, right? Number one was that they would work as unto the Lord, which means they did everything hard and with excellence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you work hard and you do it with excellence, what's going to happen? Like you're going to get paid, right? Yeah. I mean, like if you work hard and you do it with excellence, you're going to, whatever you're into, whatever you're doing, I mean, you're going to make money. Then the other component of that was that as Christians that we should live simple lives. So they didn't spend a lot of money, right? So if you make a lot of money and you don't spend a lot of money, then what do you end up with, right? A whole bunch of money, like you're rich. And so I thought it was so interesting. And that's like what built our country. Mm-hmm. Like we became rich on those two ideas. Like I'm going to work as unto the Lord and I'm going to live simply. And then we got all this money that built up. And it's weird because over the last 250 years, that has evolved. Mm-hmm. And it's evolved to the point where like we kind of did away with the hard work and did away with the savings, right? It's like now we kind of work the minimum that we can and nobody wants us to save because we live in a consumer society where it's like spend. So now all we have left is just the idea. Because see, back in the Puritan time, they started to identify Christians as people who were rich. And they were rich because they worked hard and they saved. But they said, well, that person's a Christian. I know they're a Christian because they've got money. But then when you do away with the work and you do away with the savings and all you're left with is you're a Christian if you've got money, that is the definition of the prosperity gospel, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I'm a Christian, so God's just going to bless me. And it's like, bro, that is never how it worked. It worked with hard work and savings. Like hard work lives simply and whatever. And so that I just thought that was really interesting. And obviously, it takes a whole thing to explain it. Didn't have a chance to do that. But I just kind of to hear the root of the prosperity gospel, it was an interesting thing for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why we wanted to start this up because we wanted to kind of talk about that more. Danny, I need you to look something up for me. And he can talk about this while you're looking it up, but I just want to see again the Jesus and the Devil, like part 2 of You're Not Behind. He brought out a Sam and Bryce dressed up as Jesus and the Devil. Yeah. And I just want to see it. And maybe we could put a picture in the podcast, like post edit. But what kind of like when you're having that idea, what is like, how are you approaching that? And obviously you have the thought of like, is it chill to bring a guy dressed up as the devil on? Like, just talk about that.
How are you going to go about that? Yeah. There's an old picture, and this might be, something else. I don't have it, but that you might could look up. But there's an old picture. I think it's probably set in the 50s. And there's this guy sitting at his desk at work, and he's got a chair next to the desk, and it's like Jesus, like classic Jesus, sitting in the chair next to him. Jesus is a little kind of, ethereal kind of thing there sitting next to him. And that picture has always had such an impact on me, just thinking about like, what if Jesus was there and able to give you advice? And so, I'm thinking we're talking about work, we're talking about working as unto the Lord. And then there's that idea, right? Like, what if Jesus shows up to your work tomorrow? And, there it is. Yeah.
That's
So,
yeah.
and obviously, I don't want anybody to think I was really being serious about like those guys, but I just wanted to make it memorable, right? And that's the line, so I mean, I even said on that Sunday, I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous, but I want you to go to work tomorrow and think about like that you don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities and powers. There's a spiritual dimension. Jesus is there. You're working as unto him. The devil's there. He's going to try to wreck your work, and just thinking about that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how that worked. Funny thing about that too, like Bryce dressed as the devil, and then he was on the prayer team that morning. And so like at the end of service, like he takes the horns off, obviously, and then he's down on the prayer team. And I was like, that's the devil down there, but he's not the devil anymore.
That's funny. I mean, I think that was kind of one of my main takeaways from that sermon. And obviously in this sermon, you reference back to those 3 points a lot, and you kind of were breaking them down even further of the comparing ourselves and the idealizing the past and all that. But there was the Martin Luther quote. I don't fully remember word for word what that was, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think it was a quote. I think that it was a summary of kind of the Reformation and the idea of, we glorify God. It was like a cobbler glorifies God, which a cobbler is a shoemaker, right? And a cobbler glorifies God by making good shoes, not putting little crosses on the shoes, which I thought, man, I mean, I don't know if that hit like whatever, but I thought it was such a powerful idea, right? Because we think like, oh, I'm a Christian, I'll put a fish on it, or I'm a Christian, I'll put a cross on it.
People are going to buy it because it has a fish on it and it's Christian, and it's not like, even if the shirt is, like the worst shirt ever,
falls apart in the washer,
but it has a Jesus fish on it, so people are going to want to buy it and share it on Facebook.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not how we glorify God, right? I mean, by putting a fish on a piece of junk. I mean, we glorify God by excellence. And so that was, I wanted to read this scripture to you and tell me what your thoughts were. Okay. So 2 Thessalonians 3:10-11, it says, "For even when we were with you," this is Paul talking, "we gave you this rule: the one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. We hear that some among you are idle and disruptive. They are not busy. They are busybodies." And I know I'm just hitting you with that like right here on the spot. But I mean, what are your thoughts about that scripture?
Well, I mean,
you don't work, you don't eat.
I mean, I think that there's a point that's being made more so than just a like, if you don't work, you don't eat. It's like, obviously, well, some people like they can't work. Like some people, it's like, there's this opportunity that's been happening. But I think the point that's being made is like, you have to contribute. You can't just take away. And you can't do that with Christianity. You can't just do that with your job. Like if you showed up to work and all you did is just, I don't know, raid the snack fridge and then call it a day, like that's not what you're getting paid to do, right? You're not getting paid. You're getting paid to do your work, and the snack fridge and the whatever it may be, the company car or the whatever is part of that. And so
shout out snack fridge though. I mean, snack fridge is
before we started the podcast, we were having a long conversation about the snack fridge.
It's a vital part of work, but it's not work.
It is, but so it's like, and you've got to participate before you can reap the rewards of participation. And so I think that's kind of the point. And like you said, that was kind of just my initial thought. Like, I didn't prepare to answer that question.
Well, no, I mean, I just like, I think it's a bar, man. Like he's like, they are not busy. They are busy bodies. I mean, I feel like you could just flow right off of that, man, with something,
Bump, bump, bump.
That's it. So, they're not busy. They're busy bodies. I mean,
and with I mean, I just think that it's so important that you just like have to contribute before you, and I mean, it's just like society thinks that too. It's like, I mean, like with the job situation or with the, but it's like it's like restaurants, like you're contributing financially and then they feed you. It's like
So then one more thought for you. So in that sermon toward the end, I said, your boss and company will never deserve the type of employee that God calls you to be.
Yeah.
right? So like, God calls you to be prompt, hardworking, loyal, all the things, right? And you think, well, my boss doesn't deserve that. I mean, he's, my
It's tough.
company's not
It
gonna,
really is. Yeah.
but that's who God has called you to be. So how do you, you have to kind of reconcile that every day, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think the daily part is hard. That's what makes it. Because you just go in and you're getting, at different places. Like obviously I'm not going to call anybody out or say anything, but you always have your favorite managers or you always have your favorite bosses. And then it's like, I worked at Chick-fil-A and, you'd have the people that were, you prioritize them more in your mind, but it's like, did it even occur to me that like I'm working for the Lord and like probably
the Lord's chicken.
Yeah,
you're selling the
like,
Lord's chicken. I don't know if
selling-
that's the best example, but
well, but even at Chick-fil-A, it's like it's still hard, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
even people think it's just sunshine and rainbows. It's not all the time, and sometimes people are yelling at you because
yeah.
there's 8 chicken nuggets in their 12 count or something, and it's like it's really hard to remember that you're working for the Lord at that time. And
You tell them like that's the Lord's will. The Lord's will is that you would have 8. You missed it out.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I just think that it's like that's very true, but I think it's so hard to like go into your workplace and every single day. Especially if you're 5, 10, 20, 30 years into a job, it's like the same.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of have that renewed kind of spirit every day. But
Yeah.
um,
But I think, and what I tried to get to in this is like, if when you don't, though, you lose a part of your purpose.
yeah,
Like when you don't realize that, like, I'm working for the Lord and I'm doing this every day, like, that's when you can really get discouraged, right? Like you lose the purpose for it. It's already a grind. And then, and so I don't know. I think it helps.
yeah, and I think that is working with the youth. That's kind of a time in your life where you're really looking for your purpose and you're kind of really looking for. So I think that's a good point for that kind of age group too. But back to the Martin Luther quote, I just have this like I think that there are some like I think that even if you want to make a Christian shirt or whatever, you can just still do that with excellence. Like I have an Elevation hoodie, and I paid more than but it was such high quality that I was like drawn to it, and I still wear it. I think it's 4 years later or something, and it's like it's one of their like album release hoodies. I think it's like Can You Imagine, I think is the name of the album, and it has it's pretty has praise on it and like the iconic, is one of the like really good ones. But it's like I wear that hoodie and half the time I'm not even thinking about what it says. I'm thinking about how comfy it is and how it's like how it fits me. And so I just think it's like a good like you can still spread the gospel through your clothing, and it's just like or like you can still accomplish like you can have that excellence and that like Christian kind of instead of just slapping.
You should have it more because it is.
Yeah.
This funny story, and this may get edited out, so we'll see if it stays. But there was a guy that came to us one time, and he was like, I started coming to this church, and I decided I wanted to keep coming to this church because the toilet paper was like so good. And I wasn't expecting that to be the thing that came out of his mouth next or whatever, right? So you're kind of like, oh, okay. And but he's like, usually you go to church and it's like one ply. And
shout out Charmin.
It's you're not expecting the ultra soft, right? And I was like, and he was, and he just keeps going. He's like, I can tell that you love us by this toilet paper, right? And I was like, I do love you, and but it's just like, just anything that's excellent, it just like bears fruit, and it's just like whether it's a hoodie or whether it's toilet paper or however you do things.
So obviously this was a little bit of a thing, and then I'm going to go back to the like what was running through your head when you thought, I want to have an idol on stage, or I want to.
Well, the contrast, it's Pentecost Sunday, right? The week 3 was Pentecost Sunday. So the contrast is what brought it in. It's like, we've got a God who's alive. Acts 2, and coming down. So I mean, it's the contrast of this God who's alive and active and moving in our lives, and then it's a natural New Testament contrast, right? It's like the idols. Like, Paul even says at one point, like, somehow you followed these things, right? It's like, this is a mute idol, and you were like convinced to follow this thing, and you don't want to go back to that. I mean, how dumb is that, right? And so it was like, I'm thinking, like, how do I make the point about how dumb this is? And it's hilarious because I stand up and I started saying, like, it's the birthday of the church, and it's been, almost 2,000 years, and we're going to change it up, right? And I had a few people come to me after, like, legit thinking I was serious, like, legit, like, thought, we were going to pray to this, or we were going to making some changes or whatever. And they were like, when you're being sarcastic, you need to be a little bit more sarcastic. And I'm like, I don't have enough change in my pocket that you didn't know that I really wasn't being serious.
We weren't changing it up.
We weren't changing it up, and we aren't going to start praying to this. I'm like, man, I mean, that was a little discouraging, actually. I'm like, man, maybe I'm not doing a good job if they thought, I was serious. But I mean, for me, it was just such a powerful idea of, like, if I don't pray and I don't listen to God and I'm not connected to God, then my God might as well be this, like this idol or whatever, because obviously this God's not speaking, not moving, not doing anything, not even a God, right? But it was like that for me was just like the contrast on that day, and just how to make that point. Shout out Andrew Pinnock too for his African drum idol. He teaches drumming and he teaches African drumming, and that's where the mask came from. And I think service,
I think it was given to him, right?
Huh?
Is that true?
I don't know, bro. I don't know where he got it from. But in one service, I think we called it Grogu, and another service we called it Groot, and so it had different names. But
I mean, I just think, like, people, like, back then, I think the culture was very, like, in the Bible times, it was like we worshiped things, right?
Yeah.
Like, we worshiped either God or we worshiped, like, worship was a very integral part to their culture. And so you see this, and it's like, if I worship this, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Or if I worship God, I can't do whatever I want. And so obviously we know that the human nature, like, kind of wants to do whatever,
Well, I mean,
it's like we don't want the discipline, or we don't want the things.
Yeah.
So it's like you just worship that because you can kind of worship however you want.
Well, and there's a point. I know, you and I are reading some Tim Keller right now. One of the things Tim Keller talks a lot about, though, is, like, worship. I think we're still inclined to worship, right? Like, we're not inclined to worship this, but I mean, we're worshiping something. Yeah. I mean, we talked about sports at the start. I don't think we worship sports, but I mean, there are people that worship, all those things, and you got to just think about, like, what is worship? Like, what it's you're following, you're patterning your life after, you're sacrificing for, you're giving up, and what is that thing, and I think, back then, there was a lot more of these kind of idols, but now I think there's different kinds of idols, and we have to ask those questions. So, but our God is alive and powerful and moving in our lives, and that was the point of the day, right? Especially on Pentecost Sunday.
Yeah.
So I had questions for you on this one, though, because at the end it's like we talked about surrendering our lives to God, and so what do you think? Like, as it relates to these different areas of our lives, like our thought life, for example, like, what do you think is the challenge of surrendering your thought life to God?
Well, I mean, I think wrestling with, I feel like the hardest part is realizing that you don't have to, like, every single one of your thoughts doesn't have to be um, about God, but it's more so like giving him your thoughts and giving him your, because I mean, it's hard to, like, kind of think of, it's like, how do I give my thoughts over to God? And it's like, it kind of is a thing that it's just hard to do. Like, it's just hard to stop thinking about, you know, it, we don't want people that are just thinking about God 24/7, right? We want people who are being productive. We want people who are thinking about their kids. We want people who are thinking about their jobs and working at it with excellence, right? And so it's like, how do you, like, just make sure that your thoughts are in a place where you are controlling them, but also God is also
they're
present.
godly.
They're godly thoughts. And it's like, it's kind of that, like, we don't. It's a hard
Well,
thing.
I heard this expression, it's stuck with me. Like, I can't keep a bird from flying through the barn, right? So it's an
Yeah,
old timey expression, but I can keep it from building a nest,
yeah.
right? And so, like you're saying, I mean, like every thought's not going to be about God. It's, there's stuff coming in and out.
Hmm.
But I can choose what I dwell on,
Hmm.
because I mean, I can have a thought that is not godly,
Yeah.
right? But then it's like, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to keep dwelling on that and keep going? And I think one of the biggest challenges is in thought life is nobody knows.
Hmm.
Literally, nobody else can know, like
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about. I mean, in this moment, and that's a challenge because there is like literally you're got to be accountable to you.
What am I thinking about right now?
Huh? It's probably food.
Well, kind of. It was DJ String Cheese.
DJ Stretch. Yeah.
That was a,
But then, okay, now this one is for you. All right. Dating life. We talked about like surrendering your dating life to God. And
yeah.
so how do you do that? How would you surrender your dating life to God?
Well, I mean, I think this one is. I would say that this one's easier than your thought life,
Okay.
but I think it's easier because it's more of a, like, um. Well, I don't know if I'd say that. I don't know. This is tough. I mean, it's tough.
Wow.
It
I mean, you're dating somebody right now, right?
Well, yeah, but
So
like,
is it a Christian relationship?
yeah,
Why
but
is it a Christian relationship?
well, I think that there's principles. I
Okay.
think that you can set up principles in your relationship that can make it lean toward a godly relationship as opposed to an ungodly relationship. And I think it's easier to do that and set up your guidelines with that person, especially if it's a person that also believes in those, like,
Well, I mean, that would have to come first, right? Like they would
yeah,
have to believe
like
first. I mean,
yeah.
that would, yeah. So
So,
even before you start like
before you
actually
even,
dating
yeah,
them, you've
it's
got
like
to, in the selection process.
choosing a person who believes what you believe and believes that there's a way to do this dating thing, and then
Yeah.
believes that there's a, like, uh
Like getting some
yeah,
laughs
I know.
from the back.
There's like a way
Yeah.
to do this that is a godly way, and it's not just, oh, we're just spending time together before we get married. Like,
Mhm.
there's more to it than that. And so I think that, like, um
So I mean, like
I
scripturally unequally yoked, right?
yeah.
Like what does that mean? Unequally yoked to you?
Well, I think of whenever Doc is my name for Pastor Sam. He's my grandpa, and so we call him Doc. I don't really know where it came from, but so whenever Doc preached and he always talks about the yoke, right? He's a
Yeah.
farm boy, he's a farmer,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so he talks about the yoke and like how the yoke is intended so that they're not going opposite ways, like they're going the same way,
Right.
and they're kind of together, and so but you also don't want to be just dragging a person like your other
Yeah.
bull along or whatever.
Right.
And so it's like you want somebody that can kind of go with you and not against you, but also somebody you don't have to drag. And so, I mean, just kind of making sure that person is not somebody that needs dragged or is leading you away from God. And I
But
think,
somebody might say like, hey, it's hard out here, right?
Mhm.
Like, like to find somebody is hard, and then to be nitpicky about
Mhm.
just everything that they believe and all that, and I mean, how would you kind of respond to that?
Well, I think that I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I just think that it's like you. Um,
I mean, I would say it's like worth it, right? Like
yeah.
it's
Well,
worth
I
like the
mean,
challenge.
it,
Like,
it
is
is.
it better to be? I mean, Paul said it's like better to be single than to like be, just wrapped up in the worldly
Yeah.
affairs and worldly
Yeah.
concerns and things like that. And it's just like, it's single. First of all, it's a viable choice,
Hmm.
right? It's a viable choice to be single. Like, as a church, we don't want to always put pressure on everybody to be in a
Hmm.
relationship or to be married. That doesn't make you like whatever.
Which
And,
I think is something that not is always done well. Not just with our church, but I think just with the church as a
yeah,
whole.
capital C
Like,
church
you
just
you
really
have to
pushes
be like,
being married to be like
yeah,
the
and
ultimate.
like the
Yeah,
ring by spring, and
yeah,
but I mean, I think that obviously, I would say most people want to get married, and so like, or at least have that kind of relationship, and
yeah.
so when you're looking for that, I would just say like, first of all, and we'll kind of get to this with the close friends series for the youth group in a second, but like making sure that you're the person that you would want to date, or like making sure that if you were the girl, or, you know, in my scenario, the girl, it's like, if you're thinking from the girl's perspective, like, would I want to date me? It's like, you got to make sure that that's how you are. And we kind of hit that more so in friendship, but it's like, are you making sure that that's you? Right.
Yeah.
And it's, and, but I mean, I think back to the, like, how do you kind of have a godly, like, dating kind of relationship? I just think that, like, making sure that God is above your significant other, or like your girlfriend or boyfriend, and like making sure that when you're making a decision that is, you know, maybe going to be more of a long term, like you're thinking, do I propose? Do I, you know, like, you kind of, there's kind of benchmarks, you kind of think of these things, and like, you kind of want to make sure that you're getting guidance from God, and you're making sure that you are checking in with God, and making sure you're having that connection with God, so that it's not like you're just, you know, flying by your own, because I mean, it's an important decision. It's like an important, so.
I mean, I think it's the second most important decision as far as who you marry. Second most important decision in your life.
Yeah.
First one is if you're going to follow Christ and you're going to trust him for eternity. And the second thing, man, I mean, you know, you don't realize yet. I mean, maybe you do a little bit, but I mean, you know, when you get married, man, that person, I mean, you've locked in. And,
always there.
And, you know, and yeah, it's, I mean, the sound of their voice. All the way down to, you know, how they're going to make money decisions, all that stuff. And so, I mean, the next one, you know, that we talked about was marriage and surrendering our marriage to God. You know, the thing is, I think with the expectations, like, your spouse is not going to be perfect, and yet you still have to be obedient to the Lord, you know, in your marriage. And I mean, we talked about parenting. You know, I mentioned finances on there too, you know, and it's like, how do we surrender our finances to the Lord? You know, and I mean, I don't know. You know, there's never really like a great time to talk about tithing, right? You know, because I'm always so conscious that, like, this is somebody's first Sunday, or maybe they've invited somebody. But man, I was like, you know, that's something I think we individually need to think about. Like, are my finances surrendered to the Lord? You know, and is it not just the 10% of the tithe, but also 100% of, like, the decisions I'm making that impact my life? We talked about work, and then we talked about, you know, service to the church and others. And it's like, what's you know, service in my life? Am I serving anybody anywhere? Am I serving the church? You know, that kind of thing. Because if God is who we say God is, and the church is his church, then what's our role there? You know, and I mean, it sounds very pastoral to say that, right? It's like, you know, I work for the church. So yeah, I mean, I'm just like banging that drum, but it's, I work for the church for a reason. I've given my life to the church for a reason. And so anyway, so that kind of wraps up week 3. So we will, you know,
we'll say goodbye,
and you know, pray to the living God not to.
Amen.
That.
And so week 4.
Yes.
I didn't really have many notes from week 4. I think it happened just this last Sunday. I mean, I thought you talked about a lot. I have written down, and honestly, I've kind of forgotten what it means, but light and monetary troubles.
Yeah.
Momentary.
Yeah. Light and momentary troubles.
Okay. I don't know why monetary.
The Apostle Paul, you know, he said that he's, you know, it's talking about, like, looking at everything in our lives, like, from this vantage point of eternity. And it's like, you know, instead of the arc of our lives, the arc of our earthly lives is 70, 80, 90 years, right? You know, so I'm 51. So, you know, I'm at this certain point of my arc of my earthly. And if I'm evaluating it based on that, you know, I'm thinking how many years I have left. And if I lose a year or two to some difficulty or challenge, then that's devastating. But if I realize, you know, I'm going to be alive 10 million years from now, you know, that changes the arc of everything. And I think that's what Paul was trying to say there. And, you know, I kind of made the joke in service, like, you should be offended right now because he's calling all your troubles light and momentary. And that was just kind of, but that's just kind of the idea, right? So, yeah.
I think it was, I mean, I don't know. I think it was a very good and timely series. And just so you guys know, I feel like I've been doing a lot of, like, praising, like, just the sermons and the sermon series. Like, it just doesn't, I'm not just a yes man, and I'm not getting paid like like
You're not anymore.
but I think that this was a very like timely, and I think this was a very like I just think that every single week was very good, and it talked about just things that kind of needed to be said, and especially just in the season that we're kind of in with graduations, with weddings, with all those kind of things. I just think it was good. So.
I mean, in week 4, we kind of finished at this point. I'd love to get, your take on these things, because we finished with like these 5 ideas of like, how do I respond, right, when I'm facing a hard season?
Mm-hmm.
And, the first one is to fix our eyes on Jesus. And it almost that I was really worried about that, because I was worried it was going to be just like a catchphrase kind of thing. It's like, oh, fix your eyes on Jesus. But I mean, what do you think? Like, how do you make that practical? Like you're going through a hard season, and it's like, how do you do that? I mean, how do you fix your eyes on Jesus?
Yeah. I mean, are you saying specifically when you're going through a hard season? Yeah. I mean, I think like for me, it's just kind of realizing like, I don't know. I feel like it's pretty easy for me to kind of think back, like, and just kind of see the big picture. I think that that's just kind of the step that I think you need to take in that scenario, is like seeing the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm going through this right now. It's pretty terrible, like, just to be completely honest. And it's like, I don't know why, or like really what's happening or why it's happening, but like you can just kind of think like big picture, and it's like, well, God got me through this before, like, or maybe this is a returning issue, and it's like, God got me through this before, God's gotten me through other things, or like I can see God's hand in my life. And so it's like, I'm just going to choose to just trust that even though this is just like, even though I don't want this to be happening, or I don't want to be going through this, or this situation is just out of my control and I can't do anything about it, and it's just terrible, like, that God's still in control and God's still working it out. And then I think once you have that mindset of like thinking like that, it's kind of easy to see, or it's not easy, but it's maybe easier to see like how God can use that situation. And so I think that like fixing your eyes on him, and it does. I mean, it's the For King and Country song, right? Like from forever ago. It's like just kind of cliche at this point. It's kind of like the fish, like where if you don't really think about it and you just kind of hear it or see it on a T-shirt, it's like
right.
But I mean,
we got to be careful there, because it is literally a scripture, right? Like, fix your eyes on Jesus. So I mean, you can't just. But somebody said something one time that really. I mean, I think it's really helped me. Like over the years, they were saying like, you're in the middle of a hard season, and you need to realize that in a couple years, you're going to summarize this season when you're telling it to somebody in 2 sentences, right? You're going to be like, man, I lost my job, and it was like we were 6 months and we had no idea like if what was going to happen. And then I got a new job, right? And you're in the middle of like the 6 months, and you're like, man, I'm drowning. I'm going under. But in 2 years, and how many times has that happened? I mean, I know you're young, I'm old. And I mean, how many times has that happened to me? Like, I was so in that season, it was so miserable. But then I would look back and I could just summarize it like in conversation that, you're at a party and you're like, oh, last time I saw you, you were going through this. And it would just give it like 2 sentences and you're done, And for me, that just gave it like the perspective of like understanding, like you're saying, like the big picture. Like in the big picture, it's not as big a deal. And I do think that fixing our eyes on Jesus, like, causes us to have the big picture of things, right? It's like, man, heaven and eternity, and that is the backdrop for all of these things. And so, we talked about refusing to forget the times that God has seen us through. And one of my favorite things was like, I got the quote from Lamentations, right? Which you don't get a lot of Lamentations or whatever. And so, refusing to forget, it's like, man, God has delivered me. And it's like, how many times do I get in the season and it just, I wipe out everything that God has done in the past. And so, I want to remember that. And I know, you and I have talked a lot about praying honest prayers. And I mean, what are you have thoughts? I mean, I say the C.S. Lewis quote every time. So it's like,
well, I mean, I think it's just what's the C.S. Lewis quote?
The C.S. Lewis quote is, pray what is in you, not what ought to be in you.
I mean, I think that that's just I mean, it just sums it up very well. But I mean, I think just
That's Lewis.
just shout out. Yeah. Uh, I just think like just it's like God knows what's going on anyway, and it's like it just kind of feels disrespectful to a point to be just like, you know,
Fake.
yeah, or just I mean, it's like why what's the point? Like why are
Why
you
do you think though? I
doing
mean, why do you think that we do that? Why do you think there's this impulse that when we come before God, that it's like I've got to sort of pretend that everything's good?
well, I think that it just I don't know. Like I just think it's like a just view of God that's just like and I mean I think it could even be like when you respect authority, like, if your boss walks into your office and asks you what all you've done today, you're going to tell him the highlights, right? Like you're going to tell him you're not going to be like, "Well, I sat in my chair and saw how many times I could spin around without stopping," or like, just that was a crazy example. But like you're gonna tell him, okay, I've got this done, I've got this done, I've got this done, like I've got all the good things done. You're not gonna tell him, you know, uh,
So you're saying
yeah,
there's like
it's
an
like
impulse
there's just like
not
an
to be a
impulse to
complainer, not to be negative.
yeah,
So you want to come to
just
God and you just want to just kind of make it all look positive.
yeah, and just make yourself look better than you
Yeah.
are, and I mean, obviously we know that God knows that we're broken, right? And
Yeah.
we know we're broken, but it's like it's just it's when you see somebody you're walking by and you just say, "Hi, how are you?" And
And
they don't go to into
yeah.
all the like, I'm going through this,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm good.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess what you're saying then is like um like prayer as confession a little bit, like you don't want to confess that you're broken. You want to like you want the language to be positive. Like you're trying
Yeah.
to convince yourself that it's all good because God knows the truth and so you're
Hmm.
just trying to hide the truth, right?
Yeah.
And keep that to yourself. We talked about refusing unhealthy isolation.
Hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, in people, but I mean, it's like as soon as something goes wrong, they're just isolate themselves
Yeah.
and get away. And at the church, one of the things, and I beat up on the church I grew up in all the time, but it did help me find the Lord. But I mean, there's one of these ideas, just like you come to church and everybody just puts on the face, right? They're just like, oh, everything's great, everything's blessed. And so when something's not going well, you're not drawn into that community, right? Like you're like,
Hmm.
I don't want to go hang out with all those people who are just whatever,
Yeah.
and it's a tough line because you also don't want to hang out with a bunch of people who are just complaining all the time, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want them faking that everything's perfect, but you also don't want complaining all the time. You kind of need to get a real middle,
Hmm. Yeah.
and but people will isolate themselves when going through hard times, and then the last thing was remember what is not lost and give thanks.
Hmm.
It's so easy when one bad thing happens that we just focus on that and we forget all the blessings that we have in our lives and our worship just vanishes. And part of the reason that we were created was to worship. So when we lose that purpose,
Hmm.
that's rough too. So, yeah.
Well, and I think kind of, are you, how'd you feel about the series?
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt good. Like I said, I mean, I think like you said, it kind of hit,
Hmm.
and I mean, it's not me. I mean, I try to plan, but I believe the Holy Spirit can help me plan 6 months in advance, right?
Yeah.
Because he knows what's coming. But, I just really felt like it did meet people where they were. And that's always a good feeling for me, right? Because I'm going to put a lot of work into a series.
Yeah.
And, some of them don't hit, but I felt like this one really met people where they were and
Yeah.
I felt good about it. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that what you were just talking about with your point of like with friendship and stuff like that kind of is a good transition into what was happening at the old Mountaintop Youth
Yeah.
over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, man.
Shout out Mountaintop Youth.
Shout out Mountaintop Youth. I get to be there with you.
Yeah,
Exciting.
it's been pretty fun, especially I think these last 4 weeks they've kind of also hit, I think,
Mhm.
and so I think that we kind of had a good, you know, we had good series this month of like, and the Lord kind of leading us to what to talk about, and like, I think that talking about friendship is very important for the youth, and I think the youth group is ages or well grades like 7th through 12th. Just so if you are listening and you didn't kind of know what age group
Mhm.
that was, so I think friendship is a super important topic for them, just because like at that age, you can't control everything. Like you obviously can't control your life. You're living with your parents, whatever. But I think who your friends are and how you form these friendships and like who's influencing you is one of the, I would say, few things that you can really like control. And your parents actually, I mean, I think rarely your parents like force you into friendships. Like it's kind of it's more on you. And so we talked about that, and so I think what you were saying about like friendship and all that kind of transitions well into what was happening at the youth group. So I think that youth group, you're there too. It's been good vibes the last 4 weeks. There's been just a bunch of kids, and I think that we've been this series kind of hit too. We were talking about close friends and like your friendships and all that, and so I think that hit too. I think that both of our series just kind of landed well this
month. Like you said, not always the case, right?
Yeah, it's not
just glazing.
It happened. I think it just is.
Yeah.
This month was a good month of teaching. Well, topics. I think it hit well. Basically, is what I'm saying. But, so, and I think that this is just such an important time for youth group kids and youth group or this is an important topic, excuse me, because I think that this is one of the things that they have control over in their lives. When you're living at home, when you're still in your teenage years and you're under the authority of your parents, and they can tell you things, and you have to do things, you have to clean your room, your friends is one of the decisions that's kind of your own.
You can't pick your school, you can't pick your parents, you can't pick your siblings, but you can pick your friends.
You can pick your friends, and you can pick those type of people that are around you and influencing you. And obviously we both believe strongly that your friends make a huge impact, especially in those teenage years, kind of who you become and who you end up being. And so and so week 1 we kind of hit that a little bit. We kind of hit the who is in your circle, right? Like who is influencing you, but more so we also hit, and I referenced this earlier, like being the type of friend that you want to be, right? Or you want to have.
What was the story what was the Bible?
The Bible story?
Bible story that week.
It was David and Jonathan.
Okay.
And so we were talking about David and Jonathan and the whole story of, David's on the run, kind of, and Saul's kind of being bipolar, and sometimes he'll like David, and then most of the time he's trying to actively kill him. And so David was kind of in that, and him and Jonathan come up with this plan, and they they kind of see if David's safe, and obviously they have to end up parting ways at the end, but they had that great friendship. And Jonathan, there was a point I made in that lesson of Jonathan was literally he's the son of the king, and he's going David is anointed king, but if David is dead, if Saul succeeds and kills David, Jonathan will probably be the next king. Jonathan will probably be in line for that position, but he just cared about David so much that he wanted him to, he didn't get blinded by the power and the fame and the money and all of that in the Bible. There's plenty of people who were leaders who got blinded by those things and taken away. And so Jonathan didn't. And was
that really, I was in there, like you said, and that really struck me again for the first time, right? Like how much it cost Jonathan to have that friendship.
Yeah.
And this was me sitting in youth group, thinking, I'm not a youth, but I'm thinking, as you're teaching, and it's just we don't tend toward relationships that cost us anything, right? Yeah. It's we always, we want relationships that are a benefit to us. And it was convicting for me, I'm sitting there and I always just, I try to act like I've got it all together, but it's are there any relationships in my life that cost me anything, or is it just all people, I only keep people around me that are a benefit to me?
Yeah. I think that it was just very it's just so important, and then we kind of hit that topic more so in the 4th week of kind of being uncomfortable and being your friendships might challenge you, and that's but the good friendships sometimes will need that and do that, and in the story we talked about week 4, you needed that. But for week 1, just being a friend means being selfless, and you have to make sure too, like as you're looking for friends, and you know, just a lot of the youth group kids, and like I see this, but then I also was like this when I was in youth group. It's just like you feel like your friendships, you just feel like you just kind of want more friends, and if you don't have any friends, you feel like I don't really know how to get friends, or like I don't know how to like. You're just
Well,
maybe
and that defines
against it.
you too, like so much, right? Like you're part of this group, you're part of
Mhm.
that group, you don't have friends, and you're defined by that. And I mean, I think that's something that, like, you get out of high school, you graduate high school, or
Mhm.
you just, like you just graduated college, and these people that are all so important to you in that season, like, I haven't seen those people in 30 years,
Yeah, they
and
all
it's like, and
disappeared.
and yet during that time, it felt like they defined
Mhm.
me and who I was, and they really didn't.
Yeah, but
So,
I mean, and so it's like finding good. It's just finding good people, but then
mhm.
and then well, that kind of goes to week 2, which was like friendships are going to end probably, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially. So there was a study that I referenced in this week, and it was basically just that in adolescence, right? And so starting in 7th grade, actually, which I just thought was cool because, like, you think it's 6th, or
Mhm.
but youth group starts at 7th, and this study started at 7th. It's one in every 100 friendships will last through the senior year.
Mhm.
It's like one in every 100, and so I'm thinking about uh, all of the friendships that are in youth group, right? And
Mhm.
it's just like we kind of, I feel like they have a high chance of success, but obviously I think that those friendships are obviously going to change. But I think they have a higher chance of success just because of the built-in kind of youth group
Mhm.
experience and that. But I think like I've just seen so many of the friendships kind of change, and like even the main friend kind of changes, or like who they interact with more changes, or like the friend group kind of splits off into 2 friend groups, and like just how it changes is just natural. And
Mhm.
so then I kind of hit the point of like how you react when those friendships change
Mhm.
is very important,
Yeah.
because if you because teenagers have a tendency to be dramatic. and and people, I think a lot of times girls get too much of the blame for that, because boys know how to be dramatic too. It's just not as like public, I guess, like oftentimes. But it's like the boy, like if a friendship between boys like splits up, there it can be dramatic too. But like teenagers have a tendency to be dramatic when this happens, and they become mean, or they will talk about them behind their back, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just, this is kind of how it goes. Like it's
Right.
not that this person is the worst person ever, but it's like sometimes they just go in different ways.
Friendships evolve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
friendships evolve,
And kind of leaving room for those things to circle back,
yeah.
like, like, if you're not as close with somebody as you used to be, and all of a sudden they're like the enemy, and you like talk about them and you hate them or whatever, and then, like, who knows, you leave for college and then you end up at the same college, and those friendships can circle back, but
Yeah.
with all the drama, you don't leave room for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably one of the main things I wish I'd hit a little bit more, or maybe just didn't get to hit as much. Just with that is um, like sometimes we're like just too much of just jerks. Like I mean, and that's there's a high chance,
Mhm.
especially we're in Beckley, West Virginia.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's not many people. Like
yeah.
it's not like we're in New York City or whatever. That's
Yeah,
like it's like the odds of you running into that person again are pretty high, or
yeah,
at
yeah,
least
yeah,
at some point in your life. And so it's like, and people are always going to remember how you made them feel, and like, and
yeah,
so I mean, you might even not even remember really being friends in 30 years, but you'll
yeah.
remember how that reaction kind of hit. And so and this, we talked about Paul and Barnabas and
Mhm.
the feud between them, and I think that was a good story. But I think this was the hardest one to teach,
Mhm.
because it's you're looking out there at just all of these kids, and you just see like just such potential, and you see
Mhm.
such like good friendships, and you see such good like people, and they're making good choices, and they're engaging. But also it's like, and then telling them like friendships are probably gonna end. It's really hard to kind of get
Yeah.
them to understand like that, but then it's also really important to teach just because, it is gonna
Yeah.
happen. And so
And that's one of the things, like in this lesson, I mean, even just talking about like hard seasons and stuff, it's like, when do you say it?
yeah.
Because it's like the friendship just ends,
You don't want to
like you
say it
never
when
have a
it begins.
chance to say it. So it's like, I got to kind of pick a time,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and say it, like, look, if your friendship ends, it's great right now, but
Mm-hmm.
if it ends, like, be a person,
Yeah.
like treat them right, because, hey, it might circle back, it may not, but just be a person in
Yeah.
this instance. And I mean, I thought it was cool, man, because honestly, like, I haven't heard that lesson a lot. And I thought again, I don't know, we're just a mutual fan
Yeah.
club here, like, hey, thanks for tuning in. So I can
Next pod will be more we'll just hate each other.
we'll figure out criticisms for each other. But man, I thought I thought you did a good job of like pulling out something that you don't often hear. And like, you need to hear that. Like, hey, if this friendship ends, which, wink, wink, it probably will. Like, be a person, be cool to them and all that. And so I thought that was good. And I thought the Paul and Barnabas tie-in was good too, because I mean, Paul does end up talking, later to John Mark and to Barnabas, at least sending them kind of a first century shout out, in a letter, and that kind of thing. But I mean, the Holy Spirit used both groups, kind of Paul and Barnabas split up, but God uses Paul and Silas, and God uses Barnabas and John Mark, and it's like, hey, you know because I think teenage years are the time for friendship and volatility in friendship. Like, as adults, we don't have as many friends, and there's not all that just volatility and change in friendships like that, like there is. And that's just such an important idea for the teens. So I thought it was a good lesson.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I agree.
It's
I'm
great.
awesome. I mean, I'm awesome. I totally am down. Yeah.
And then part 3, I actually didn't teach part 3. I like to have some outside voices too with the youth.
Yeah.
I just think as I try to think of how I felt as a teenager, and sometimes it got a little monotonous.
Yeah.
To just kind of hear the same person over and over again, and it kind of gives me an opportunity to rest as well, and kind of not get burnt out in that way. But Brad taught week 3. Shout out Brad Bostic. Just a great guy. But he taught week 3 for us, and I kind of gave him some direction of what to talk about, and he talked about how sometimes it's hard to really it can be scary to open up. It can be scary to open up to people, and especially your friends, because it's like you want to be friends with them, right? You don't fully want them to know all of the things you've struggled with, or all the things you've done, or all the things you've gone through. And so you kind of sometimes there's a layer of, you don't want them. And we use the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, right? When they first sinned and then they hid from God. Obviously God knew where they were, but he asked, like, where did you go? Like you aren't here anymore. Like, we used to talk, we used to have this, like, the relationship has changed. Like, where are you?
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I think it's interesting. Anytime God asks you a question,
yeah,
right? Like, if you're praying and you feel like God asks you a question, you almost got to kind of feel like you're in trouble a little bit, because God always already knows the answer to the question.
Yeah, or like an interview where it's like there is a right answer.
There is a right answer to the question. Right?
And
it's like, where are you? And then it's like, well, we realized we were naked, and then he's like, who told you you were naked?
Yeah.
And it's like, God knows the answer to the question already. You're in trouble, right? You need to think about the answer really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's like, it is important. Like you're saying, like, it's hard to open up, right? For teens and whatnot. Like, who do you think, who do you open up to? Like, I mean, if you can't, I mean, it's hard to trust like other teenage friends, right? Because things can turn, things can change,
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you've been vulnerable. Like, how do you do that? Did you find anybody, like, when you were a teen, that you talked to that was just kind of helpful?
Well, I still don't talk to people. I still am it's something I'm learning and growing. But I think as a teenager, I just didn't really have those kind of people that I really, but like I didn't, it was kind of, this was one of the lessons that like, it was honestly probably good I didn't teach it, right? Or because I didn't have that experience. And Brad, I wasn't there obviously, so I'm not sure what he said, but I'm sure he's had an experience like that before in his life where he could kind of point to. But I mean, I think that I see the importance of it, and looking back on like the friends that I had at that period of my life, it's like I kind of wish I'd invested. And I think that's what it is whenever you show somebody that you can trust, like you can trust them and you can kind of be open with them, as long as it's the right person, because obviously people can use, your secrets or, just the things you don't want everybody to know against you. But it's like that, when you show them that you have that respect and that trust, then those friendships can grow and they can like strengthen, right? And the whole iron sharpens iron, and like you kind of are then like challenging each other to and so
and I think, one of the things that I remember specifically doing this with Noah, and I don't know if we did this with you or not, but like the youth leader at the time, like we went, like, and Noah was there, and we went and talked to the guy, and we were like, hey, we trusted him, and we were like, hey, Noah, I want you to know you can talk to him, and whatever you say, he doesn't have to report back to us. You know what I'm saying? Kind of giving him that freedom. And doing that. And so, I think that's important, like having mentors and having different people. So you have your friend groups and there's things that you can kind of trust them with, but then there's another layer out there that's maybe not your parents or maybe not, whatever, but somebody that your parents know and trust and can, whatever, but that you can trust with what's really, what's going on and be vulnerable with them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's good. And I think that like, as you, it's just so important to have that. And I think that the youth like pastor or the youth leader, or even the the small group leaders or the volunteer, like whoever it may be, it's just getting people in the youth group that care about the kids and like want to be that person if they're allowed into that role of like, I trust you, like here's what's going on, I need some advice. And sometimes as teenagers we don't always listen to that advice, and that's okay, we still give the advice and and pray for you and hope that but it's like that I think that that's just one of the reasons that youth group is another reason that youth group's just really important for a kid to kind of grow up in, because you have that experience. But I mean, I think that week 3, and I heard Brad did a great job. It was so but then, and I touched on it earlier, being willing to be embarrassed or uncomfortable to help out your friends was week 4. Like really hitting the, like, sometimes your friendships are going to cost you, or sometimes your friendships are going to make you uncomfortable in like a way that you kind of have to stick up for your friend, or and like that's not always comfortable, or doing that. And we talked about the story of the paralyzed man with the 4 friends. And I think that I had an idea to get a blanket and like have 4 volunteers kind of lifting me up, and me being the paralyzed friend, and them kind of getting me to a volunteer who was portraying Jesus. And there's a funny story about, like, so I decided, I was like, I'm tall, and I'm an adult male, like I'm decently heavy, okay, and I was like, I just want to make it like, I want them to feel, I want them, because my thing with the volunteers is they're always so excited. Like if I say I need some volunteers, there's so many hands that are raised. And so sometimes it's like, great. And there's been some illustrations where the volunteers have left with money, or like they've left, doing things. And then other times where it's like, we paid a price. And so I think that's fun to like have the volunteer, like, sometimes. So, but anyway, what we did was, I grabbed the weighted blanket and I got on the weighted blanket. Obviously I'm just dead weight, and I made them pick it up. Okay. But I wanted to make sure that this weighted blanket wouldn't rip. And so before like 2 hours, 3 hours before the lesson time actually happens, I'm laying on the floor, and Pastor Mike is surrounding me, and Danny is surrounding me, and Dad is surrounding me, and they're all grabbing. Mike grabbed 2 corners, because if you know Pastor Mike, then he's strong. He can handle that. But And it's like they're like shaking me up and down and like trying to see if I'm gonna rip this blanket. I just thought that was a funny kind of like extra detail that you wouldn't know normally. But so we did that, and the blanket didn't rip, and I just think the visuals hit so well with the kids that like it's just so. I mean, this comes again from me just thinking about how I was it's so hard to pay attention during like lessons, and it's just kind of it just drags on. So you kind of try to make it interesting in that way. But I mean, I just think that all four of those topics together can just change the course of it's kind of like you said, if you apply this, like there will be change, right? And it's like if they apply these four kind of principles or whatever you want to call them to that friendship, then it's gonna be a good friendship, right? And it still might change, but when you invest into that friendship and when you put that effort into that friendship and when you're willing to sometimes be in uncomfortable situations for your friends or to help out your friends, or you maybe even embarrassed, like, I mean, it was, I made the point of like those four friends who were lowering down their friend, like, I mean, you're cutting a roof open right above the most famous person in the world. Yeah. And it's like everybody's looking at you. Like everybody's like, what in the world is happening? I know we try to, whenever there's, people talking or, cell phones go off or babies crying or whatever it may be, we've got to like preach through it. I don't know if Jesus preached through it or if he like looked up and he was like, and obviously he knew what was happening, but like, I don't know what he... Yeah. So
I love it. Jesus preached through every cell phone ringing.
Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah. But I mean, again, for me, it was just thinking like the actual point. And like, I always try to just guard myself from not like thinking about other people or whatever, I'm just thinking about like, what about me? And it's like, what sacrifices am I making for friends? You know, if I'm not a teen, okay, I mean, I'm not, like I'm not your target demographic because I'm sitting there listening, but I'm just like, are there any friends I'm making a sacrifice for? Because I mean, that was the point. That was, you talking about. I mean, these guys, they were willing to pick him up. They were willing to humble themselves. They were willing for everybody to see them. Am I doing that? In any of my relationships? And and I thought it was interesting because adults don't have a lot of friends, and I was like, man, maybe I need to talk about this, like in big church, because adults have all the big church. I don't know, anyway.
Well, I mean, and I think that's fair, and it's like sometimes, I mean, I feel like a lot of times, and obviously I'm not in the situation of like adulthood and you get wrapped up in kids and schedules and houses and all of those kind of things. But it's like, I see from my perspective, it's like, if it's how much do you want the friend? Like, how much do you care about their perspective? And how much do you care about just making sure you're still connecting with people and just making sure that your lives just don't revolve around your kids and they don't revolve around, like, obviously they're going to revolve around your kids, but like just not every aspect of that. And this is coming from a naive 22-year-old who doesn't. So, feel free to throw tomatoes at me or whatever. But it's like, it's like, I just, your kids are going to leave. Like the whole purpose of having kids is to send them off.
Right.
And the whole purpose of having kids is to help them grow and to help them, establish relationships and eventually romantic relationships. And then, they get married and they disperse and then you kind of get your life back. And then that's what I'm like, whenever that happens to me, I just want to make sure that it's not like my life doesn't have meaning, because it's like, well, it's like, what do I have in my life anymore? It's like, again, I know that it's not that simple, but it's just like,
and it's a convicting idea because it's like, I'm supposed to teach you, right, how to do things. And like, I'm worried, I'm just kind of thinking right here in the moment, did I like teach you, how to have friends as an adult, because I mean, I don't have a lot of close friends, and so now, like, you're moving into adulthood, you're gonna, probably get married, have kids, and did I teach you how to have those friends,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So, I mean, if, it's something that
Well,
we adults need to
yeah.
do better, not that you're not an adult. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
us older adults.
The actual adults.
Yeah, the actual
Not
adults.
the.
I'm still waiting on the actual adult to show up. That's not something I say a lot, but yeah. So, but anyway, teach how to have friends.
I mean, yeah, I think that would be a good. I mean,
Right.
I think it'd be a good. I mean, but I think that this is good for everybody, and I think
Yeah.
that that's what's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's great about the Bible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
So,
but
cool,
I mean,
cool.
I think that's pretty much it. I don't. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Anything that's going on in your personal world, or
I think I'm good, man. I think I'm good. I think we hit it all.
I think I'm.
Just go Spurs and
Yeah. Well.
all that. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's it for us. Faith Unpacked.
Well, I'll pray for us if that's all right, man. That'd be good.
I think just pray us out.
Yes, sir. God, we're just so thankful for this time together and the opportunity to have this conversation, and just pray, Lord, that you would help us all, Lord, whether it's new seasons, whether it's friendships, and thinking about those things, God, that you would lead and guide us. Lord, we're thankful for your Son and all that Jesus means to us, Lord, and we just pray that you would just continue to lead and guide us in every area of our lives, and we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
All right. Well, that's it from us. If you have any recommendations or,
yeah, love to get some questions.
Love to get some questions, what you guys want to hear. Just, type that in the comments or whatever, or just find us.
Yeah. Love you guys.
Love you guys. See ya.